so much. Thank you for.
Hi.
Think
All
it's
right.
on. Thank you for
Yep,
coming out.
I think I'm on.
So much. Yes.
I know this is so
Awesome.
much fun. It's such a weird day today, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and we're going to end this with a bang. And like Aaron said, we've got some treats for everybody, so you have to take a lot of them home
Yes.
because I don't want to.
I'm doing Weight Watchers, which we
Yeah.
talked about during the 70s.
Which
and
we
yes.
did, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so are you ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So if you've not been here before, we kind of go through just some basic things that were happening in the decade, and one of them is U.S. population. I mean, it's more. It's like what 275 million now.
It's quite a bit more.
But almost 250 million, and farmers.
Yeah, 1.7% of the workforce. That's pretty astonishing. And we'll at the end of this, we'll kind of pull all of the statistics from the whole series together, and you'll see some interesting trends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been watching. Was it like half? I think in the 20s.
Yeah.
Half the population, people who are working, were farmers, and it's been dwindling. We've seen all these amazing trends over the decades, and farming and the average acreage of farms was a couple of the things we've been tracking.
Yep. Unemployment 5.8%. Not bad.
That seems okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
not bad. In the life expectancy one, we changed that because for a while we were tracking how many homes had phones or electric, but at this point everybody does. Like
That's the 90s.
So we changed to life expectancy for men and women. It's still early to late 70s, and I think it's still around this
that, yeah.
number. Yeah. News. Fun and interesting factoids through the 90s. I love this one, the T-Rex skeleton, right? Like, it's a T-Rex. How could you not love that?
Internet. I remember when I first used the internet, it was 1993, or no, I think it was early 94. And I really didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know what it was. I was dating this guy, and he's like, but it's a network that's all connected, and it really escaped me. But I obviously was a few years late because 1991.
Yep.
When it hit.
Euro Disney and the Mall of America, both open in 92.
Hubble telescope repaired in space. It's still out there.
It's still, which was a huge deal. The technology to have that fixed while still in space was really a big deal. I remember watching the newscasts on that.
And now what's the other one that sends the better pictures of space? There's something that's better.
yeah.
They're better pictures
I'm
than the
drawing a
Hubble.
blank
It's
on
so
it.
cool
Yeah.
to compare them.
It is. And the Channel opens. I mean, that's not really what its name is, but everybody calls it the Channel. It's the something European
Channel, yeah. Under the
channel, but yeah, they just call it the Channel. This is what amazed me.
Same here.
Yeah. eBay and Amazon. So did you know that Amazon was actually founded as a bookstore? It was an online bookstore. Yeah, that was it.
If you watch The Crown, like I did, I really like. I didn't watch the last season, but I watched up to where they got a divorce, and then of course she unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
But 1996 is when they got divorced.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I can't believe it was 97. Like, it doesn't seem. It's been such a part of our culture for. Like, that's so funny.
And then Google and Apple. Google's founded. Apple debuts the iMac. I do remember that. They had the colors. Remember that?
Yep.
Later on, we're going to see how much a computer cost in the 90s, and it was way more than I would have been able to afford.
And it didn't take very long for Napster to be created. And do y'all remember what Napster was? It was the online music sharing program that got into a lot of trouble.
Well, I remember like you'd be downloading something and it would be like 38 hours until complete, or it would be misnamed. It would be like another song that you would download, and so it was very frustrating.
Yeah,
but
and then all the copyright infringements, of course, became
Metallica threw a fit, Lars.
Yeah, it was a big issue.
Yeah.
All right, what things cost? This is something else that we've tracked over the decades, trying to just keep an eye on, especially household things, because you got to eat and you got to have some money to spend. So what people were making and spending their money on in other areas, I always found interesting.
So cost of the house was about $122,000, which seems so cheap these days.
Right.
Annual income almost $30,000. And it actually increased, I don't know, but I guess about $1,000 a year, up to over $40,000 by the end of the decade.
So I mean, that's not bad.
I guess, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, what I found interesting was the Caravan. A Dodge Caravan cost $20,000 at the beginning of the decade, and an Escort.
Oh, I forgot about
Remember
Escorts.
those?
They were so cute.
Right?
Oh my God,
it was like half a car for double the price almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
It was so funny. Yeah.
Look at the college tuition, $3,349.
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
we're looking at that now. We have a senior getting ready to graduate and looking, oh, all right, that's the credit hour
Yep.
price,
Just
not
about.
per
Yep.
semester.
I
Yeah.
looked at my private college was $15,000 in the 90s, and it is now almost 50.
Yeah.
50.
One that we're looking at is 60, so I'll take 50.
Ooh,
Yeah.
So
Farmland, again, price per acre gone from $683 to almost $1,000 an acre. It is now, I believe. I haven't looked at it lately, but it is over. It's right at $1,000 an acre now.
rent, also, I'm a high school teacher by day, and I actually had students once ask me how much my first apartment was, and I said it was $485 a month. And they started laughing, and I'm like, I know. I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yep, a computer, just about 2,000. The price didn't go up too much, just a couple $100 by the end of the decade, so not terrible.
Not horrible.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Some food prices. I looked at these, like 89 cents for a pound of ground beef,
That's good.
right? Like $2 for a pound of butter. It's what, $4.50 now? Yeah.
Yeah. Flour's gone up.
I love the flour. $1.25 for 5 pounds.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of.
Yeah, 5
Oh my
pounds.
God. Yes. Yeah. I mean, cornflakes. That's gone. Cereal has gone up a lot.
It has.
I just bought chips for a party a few weeks ago. That was like $5 for the probably same size.
Yeah,
pack.
I would kill for this one. Bacon, $1.50 a pound.
Oh my God.
I love bacon. Not as much as I like chocolate, but Doritos, 78 cents for a
Yeah.
2-ounce bag. Yeah,
Yeah, that's gone up.
I know it's gone up. Yeah.
It's gone up a little bit. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
So now I found this was very responsible of Perrier. So in the 80s, we found that Perrier debuted their first new product in what was it, 100 and some years?
Yes, it was over 100 years. Perrier has been around for a long time.
Yep.
And they added lime flavor, lemon and lime,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. But they were called, and you'll see a trend throughout this decade. They were called 160 million bottles after just a few percentage, and I want to say it was like 1 to 2%. So a very small percentage were found to have benzene in it.
And benzene can mess up your bone marrow.
Yes, we don't want that.
Looked it up.
Yep.
You're going to see some other things about just being some safe, sustainable practices that really got its kickstart in the 90s. The tuna canneries commit to the dolphin safe. I remember buying cans of tuna, and it was a big thing. It said dolphin safe. So
that became a really big deal.
it did.
And Patty's right. Food safety becomes a very big issue in the 90s. For the most part, because of mad cow.
You're going to see this more than once. The
Yeah.
mad cow.
And France said we're not going to have any of it. We refuse to import any British cow, any beef. We're not having it because of the mad cow disease. And I mean, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, totally. 1990 sushi. I did not
Love
have sushi
sushi.
until probably the early 90s. It became more mainstream. I didn't even know what it was probably in 1990, to be honest. I was still in my little suburban where I grew up. So
Yep. Sun-dried tomatoes are in everything. They're everywhere in everything, whether it's a dressing, on a salad, in bread. It was everywhere. Pizza, yep. Yeah, and kid cuisines were gross. I'm just going to say it.
Look at it.
They were not very, I mean, they were specifically designed for kids, so I suppose it's supposed to appeal to a kid's appetite. But
Yeah, chicken nuggets and
Yeah.
macaroni and cheese and a brownie. Oh, hell yeah. Heck
yeah.
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 So
And
I remember.
I remember this.
The George Bush saying that he doesn't like. It was the dad, wasn't it? HW. It was the
Yep.
dad saying he doesn't like broccoli. He's not going to eat it. He's the president. Something happens on the next slide. Totally coincidental, but it does kind of relate to broccoli.
It does. All right. McDonald's opened its first branches in Russia and China in the same year. Like, that's a very big deal.
And this was the broccoli. Totally coincidental. The first new type of soup from Campbell's in like decades just happened to be cream of broccoli. It was not intentional.
It was not.
nothing to do with the George Bush thing, but it's kind of fun that it kind of came out like that
Yep.
year.
I found it really funny that the New Zealand Navy still had rum rations to begin with,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, yeah. But
Yep.
then they finally ended their rum rations for sailors.
And I looked that up. They were the last country to end it.
Yeah.
The United States and UK ended like in the 1800s.
Yeah.
But New Zealand kept giving the sailors like however many ounces. But it's like something weird. It's like a gill or something, or
Yeah.
a Jill, Gill. It wasn't like
Wasn't a lot,
ounces.
but
yeah, but still,
which I think
you
it's
know,
funny.
hey,
Yep.
I'll take it.
There's also a trend this decade with very large things. And
Oh, yes.
You'll see this coming through a couple of times. But a 500-pound, 6-foot-tall Hershey's Kiss is displayed in Times Square, and that's why I chose that picture because I thought it was so ironic. Because it's a Hershey's
The
Kiss,
Hershey's Kiss.
right?
I had one today
Yeah.
at lunch.
Yeah. But could you imagine a 6-foot tall Hershey's Kiss?
Did they like eat it? I mean, did they just like chip off
Well,
chocolate
that's
and give
my
it to
question with
passersby?
all of these things. Is we have a lot of this coming up, and what do they do with it?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. 91 was a pretty big year. The 500th Red Lobster. Bet you didn't know that General Mills was the parent company either, did you?
They kind of own a lot of things, though.
They do.
Ken,
Yep.
So yes,
They sure did.
So I thought this was interesting. Salsa sales overtake ketchup. I remember one of my many diets I've been on in life, putting salsa on a baked potato instead of butter. It's not good.
It's not.
No, it's really not. But I remember like salsa was everywhere, and there was like
was.
pineapple salsa
From
and,
New York City.
Oh my God, those guys!
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm totally down with that because I don't like ketchup. Ugh, can't do it.
It's sugary.
Yeah. The last horn and hard art. So my girlfriend reviews these for typos for me, and she was like, "What's a horn and hard art?" Because she grew up in Scotland, she didn't know what that was, and I was like, "Oh, it's a food automat," and so I had to explain to her what that was, and I was shocked. I
It was
thought they
still
closed back in the 60s.
30s. Right. So folks I don't know if people are familiar with Automat. There's a really good documentary that I haven't finished watching. But they really kind of took off during the Depression. So you would go and think of a vending machine, but there was a live person like in the back making the food, and then they would put the food in the little like
in a
glass,
cupboard.
yeah, in a little glass door, and then so it was fresh. It wasn't like a vending machine that's
Right.
been gross. So it was someone making the food. It was cheap and fast and easy.
Yep, and you put your nickel in because things were smaller and affordable. You put your nickel in, you open the door, you grab your plate, and you put it on your tray, and you walk back to your table. Like it was the coolest thing, but I was shocked that it was 91. I thought it was way earlier than that.
I would have said like after the World
Yeah.
War II, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But
World's largest burrito, 1,100 pounds. Like what oven are they going to bake the tortilla in?
what are you gonna do? Are you
Right?
like give a little
Like-
this? I got this piece of the.
I couldn't imagine a burrito 1,100 pounds.
No, I can't
Yeah.
either.
Can't either. Le Cordon Bleu, which has been one of the world's premier culinary education centers, opens a branch in Tokyo, which was a very big deal.
It's just like the McDonald's. I mean, things are becoming the globalization is becoming big in the 90s. That's
Yep,
a trend.
we'll talk about that a little bit later on too. Yep.
Oh, here we go. Largest Burger King in Budapest, which I never would think Hungary would have like the largest Burger King. That's kind of weird to me, but
It was 3 stories tall. It was 3 stories. Like, how many burgers you gonna like 3 stories? I couldn't believe it.
in Hungary, of all, like, I mean, I guess good for them.
Yep.
I don't know. So more sustainability. Japan agrees to stop using drift nets. Just another. We're going to see another coming up in a few years.
We'll also see some trends in the way we're eating. McDonald's unveiling their McLean Deluxe.
Does anybody
burger.
remember that? I remember it. It was a weird texture.
It was a weird texture. Yeah.
I feel like the 90s is very one extreme or the other. Like we see a lot of this. We're going to see like diet foods coming up, but then we're also going to see like
An 1,100-pound burrito.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like the polar opposites.
And I always wondered as a kid what happened to the holes in the lifesavers because my grand always had a roll of lifesavers in her purse. This is what happened
There
to the
they
holes. There
are.
they are. I was so happy.
And my favorite apple is the Honeycrisp apple,
Mine
which
too.
I would have just thought had been around forever. I had no idea it was actually like developed.
hybrid,
People
yeah.
like it was a hybrid. People made it not until 1990. I had no idea. I
And
think
I
they're
love 'em.
delicious. They're
I
expensive.
absolutely love 'em.
Don't buy them at Whole Foods. You
No.
will pay like $10 for like 2 apples.
Yeah.
Found
Yeah.
out the hard way.
Good to know.
Yes.
Lipton, Nestea, and Arizona come out with their own brand of ready-to-drink iced teas because at this point, Snapple's been around for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they've
out in the 80s.
dominated the market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me.
Speaking of food, health stuff, the USDA, the new food pyramid guidelines.
Yep.
And
It says 6 to 11 servings of bread, cereal, rice, and pasta.
the milk one too
Yeah.
is. I guess it's not as big as I thought. I thought it was more like 4 or 5, 2 to 3 servings of milk or yogurt.
Yeah.
Remember the Got Milk campaign? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Canadian officials actually they mandate the fisheries along the coast to be closed for 2 years because they realize that they're overfishing the sea. And they're like, we got to stop that. So they shut it down for 2 whole years.
And thousands of jobs were lost. So it was not without controversy.
No, it was again a very big deal, but necessary because now the cod fisheries are back up and running and they're more sustainable. So electric bread machines, which
I had one.
Oh, Betty.
It did not make. It was not the same bread. It
It's
was
really
very.
not.
It was like post-apocalyptic. You know, they're in the fields growing.
it has
this,
a
like,
hole in the
radiation.
middle of it.
Yes.
Right? It has
Yes,
this
it
giant
did.
hole in
Oh
it.
my God.
Right? I've never understood
That's
that.
right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Yes.
And then Totino's controls 20% of the frozen pizza market.
Is it even still around?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I get
Yeah.
the DiGiorno, so I've never had it. Maybe I have.
We'll talk about that in a minute too.
Yes, it's coming up.
Spam.
We always have spam in our presentations.
There's
Every
just
decade.
something about spam.
Every decade.
Yep. Because it's been around that long. And I was just at Costco, and they still have spam.
Absolutely do.
It's a thing.
Hershey Kisses with almonds. I went to college with someone who swears she had that idea, like when she was a kid. Unfortunately, did not cash in on it. It was 1992. I remember that.
Oh,
I think
do
they're
too.
really good.
Yeah. I eat my weight in them. Charlie's Lunch Kit. So again, we're seeing some trends towards more convenience.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that a little bit, since grocery stores were invented back in the 30s, and some in the 70s and 80s. But the 90s are really like it's all about convenience and packaging and how it's all comes together. And that was the big one.
And Whole Foods, I just mentioned, don't buy apples, Honeycrisp apples. They became the first publicly traded natural food grocery store. I did not hear of Whole Foods until I moved to Ann Arbor in 2001, and everyone was talking about Whole Foods, and I'm like, what is Whole Foods? And it was where Trader Joe's is now in that really awful parking lot.
That's a really bad parking lot.
I just remember I was like, I liked it, but I'm like, this is horrible. I mean, it was, but the parking lot was horrible. Not the store. It was kind of cool.
Food irradiation begins. 1,100 pints of strawberries are irradiated. Now, food irradiation has already taken place with dried foods. This was the first time it was used on fresh foods, which, as you can see, the theory is the initial harvest is fine, stored at 5 degrees Celsius for 8 days, and then irradiated at 5 degrees Celsius for 8 days. That it looks just like the initial harvest. There's very little degradation in it, but it was fairly controversial. It still is.
Fair enough, yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I want to eat irradiated food.
Yeah, I know. It's good.
Right?
Radiation.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Snackwells! I ate so many of the Devil's Food Snackwells cookies. I'm not going to live as long as I should because I ate a lot of the Snackwells.
They were pretty tasty, though.
They weren't bad. I mean, they were okay.
Everything was clear. I don't know why. Everything became clear. Clear Pepsi, Pepsi Clear, Coke. There was even a Coke version that was clear. It was this clear trend that it didn't last very long.
They came to my college it must have been 92, I guess, and I remember we were at the snack bar and they had like free Crystal Pepsi and like we were drinking it. It was okay. I remember there was the commercial with the Van Halen song right now. Yeah. But I didn't know there was Tab Clear.
Well, who knew Tab was still around back in the 90s anyway,
I know.
right?
Tab is still, I think it's still a thing.
Yeah, I think
like,
it is still. Yeah.
No.
Julia Child published The Essentials of Italian
rest her
Cooking.
soul.
So what she did for French cooking, she was on the path to do for Italian cooking, right? Come on. There we go. I thought this was hysterical, which is why I included this. The fact that, there was the fact that someone even thought that this was a thing, right? Like you chew your food and then spit it out. And then to think that Elton John would
of
do
all
this,
the people,
right?
it's not like he's 10 pounds. I mean, not that he's big, but I mean, he's normal size.
But he sued them for false news and won 518 pounds.
I can't imagine chewing your food and spitting it out.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, and the Food Network, ubiquitous now. I would have thought it was much later, but it was 93 it debuted. Yeah.
I do remember that. I was at my dad's flipping cable channels and I came across it and they aired the original Iron Chef shows
You must
from
have been
Japan.
delighted, Keegan.
Oh, I was
You
in
must
heaven.
have been delighted.
I
Oh
was
my
absolutely
God.
in heaven because have anybody seen the original Iron Chef shows that were from Japan? I didn't understand a word they were saying, and it didn't matter. It was dubbed in English, and it was okay, but some of the stuff they came across was amazing. It was such a great show. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Talking about big stuff. The
Yep.
world's largest PB&J, 40 feet long, 150. Okay, so how would you transport 150 pounds of peanut butter? I guess a giant vat.
Yeah.
50
A cement
pounds
truck?
of jelly.
Yeah. Like, and what do you do with that?
That is wild.
Like, it's got to be from me to the wall. That's got to be 40
there's
feet,
like
right?
that's
Yeah.
just so flippin' weird.
Yeah.
Okay, people are weird.
They very weird. So remember that weird texture you were talking about?
Yes.
Boca burger. That's all I'm
Oh
going
my
to say.
God! Yes, I know. I'm
Yeah.
not. They beef or non-beef burgers have come a really long way.
They really have. The
in the
Impossible
past like
Burger
decades,
is pretty good.
seriously, like
Yeah.
for like the Boca was just weird. So
Yep.
yeah, it had a weird aftertaste if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So,
Craisins are a thing now.
Yep. Dried crap. We just had some. We had a make your own trail mix at my school, and that was part. I don't like
I
them.
just don't know why they just don't call them cranberries. Like,
They're just
right? It's a dried cranberry. Why you got to come up with craisins?
maybe people would be turned off and think, oh, cranberry, then think of that gelatinous thing at I don't know.
Oh, that could be
yeah.
it. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Speaking of Hershey's innovations, the Hershey's Hug with the white chocolate around it, I think they're delicious. I don't know. I like all manner of Hershey Kiss, though, honestly. So
I still love you, Patty. It's all right.
you don't like the Hershey Hugs?
No, well, because of white
oh,
chocolate.
that's right. I forgot you. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's not really chocolate.
It's
like
not.
legally, it's not
It's
really
not.
chocolate.
No, it's not.
terrible. Anyway. Zima.
Oh.
Remember those?
I didn't want to put this, but I have a picture of me in college, very intoxicated from Zima, and I'm taking a Captain Crunch cereal box and I'm drinking the Captain. I'm like this. I'm like pouring it into my
Nice.
mouth. I thought it was a really good idea.
Nice.
At like, yeah. So yeah, I
Well,
do remember Zima.
It was at the time. It was a good
I
idea.
do remember. It had a weird taste.
So who remembers Jurassic Park? Of course, right? So McDonald's connected with the movie
the
Jurassic
movie, right.
Park, and they created an entire ad campaign around dinosaurs and the largeness of dinosaurs. And the Jurassic Park movie is why we have supersized McDonald's things now.
I did not know that until we researched for
Yeah.
this presentation. I had no idea it was
Yeah.
affiliated.
This is exactly why. So that T-Rex they found kind of like was the impetus for all of this. So yeah, but because before this, things were just regular sized. They weren't like extra, but now because of the T-Rex in the movie, everything, and that's that's a whole nother.
But it also, I think it's interesting that like we have Snackwells, and later on we'll talk about the Wow Dorito chips, but we also have supersize. It's just this, yeah.
You, absolutely right.
And
The
peak-
polar opposites of the '90s.
Peak years of grunge music. I have my flannel shirt on. I used to have I used to have like 12 flannel shirts, but I recycled them.
Right.
But I have this one.
Yeah.
94.
There we go.
Quaker Oats. He's asserting his dominance.
For a really short period of time. So in doing the research on this, Quaker Oats, they acquired Snapple for some $1 billion amount, and then within 9 to 12 months had to sell it in order to keep the company alive. They overextended themselves and had to sell it off
Come on,
for
Coke
parts.
guy. Look at him.
Yeah, I mean, Quaker's still around, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they realized that they're not in the beverage industry; they're in the food industry, and it was a very short-lived purchase.
Stay in your lane, Quaker
Yeah.
Oat man.
Yeah.
So, Flavor Saver, safe for human consumption.
Yep. And it's on the tomato because that was the
Tomato.
first
That was the
genetically
first
modified crop
thing.
was the
Yep.
tomato. And it is.
It's safe. It
It
is.
is absolutely safe. It's the Flavor Saver, the process to do that is scientific versus using a hybrid process in your garden doing it yourself. It's the same process, just a different way to do it. So of course it's safe.
Sure.
And then recumbent
Remember this,
bovine
yeah.
growth,
Growth
hormone.
hormone. Yep.
Yeah. Milk goes on sale. First time ever. And now we'll see on packages no growth hormones added.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are. So more globalization issues. NAFTA. I remember
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, this was a big deal.
I was like paying very close attention to politics, and yep, it's established. changed the trading
It
situation.
did. So and it really changed the way Central and North America eats, because it didn't just apply to cars and things being manufactured. It applied to agricultural products. So all of the crops from Mexico coming in didn't have the tariff anymore. So we got a lot more of them. Think watermelon, think grapes, think all the fresh fruits, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. All of those started coming in from Mexico. In reverse, all of the McDonald's was being sent south. So it really had some long-lasting implications into the way that all three countries eat, and in my opinion, not for the better. And unfortunately, millions of Mexican farmers were displaced, and their farms were actually shut down since then. And they've implemented the non-GMO corn, because it's a heritage corn for them. It's a heritage crop. So they wanted to make sure that they retain their heritage. And it really had some devastating effects in Mexico in terms of how they eat, more so than here in the U.S. or in Canada.
Other not good things, mad cow disease. I remember talking about this, and people were like, it's like going to be this thing, and it's going to kill all of us. And it didn't, but it killed significant numbers of people, as seen by the In Loving Memory Memorial.
Yeah. Yep. And the French Laundry restaurant
That's some
opens
good
in
news.
California. I mean,
something good in '94.
Yep, it's still there. It's still going
Yeah.
strong. It
Oh,
is still
yeah.
considered one of the greatest restaurants in the United States. I would love to go, but can't afford it.
Yeah.
I think I need new batteries. There we go.
There we go. Oh yeah. So rice issue. So the Imperial Palace in Japan has to serve the royal meals with rice going here in China and in Thailand due to shortages in rice harvests.
Yeah, which
That's fairly significant.
that's
I
a
mean,
very
that feeds
significant.
a lot of
Again,
people.
the globalization of food and how it affects everything around it. It's just unreal. I want to know who
That's
ate
not
this
it.
lollipop.
Did everyone come up like take a lick or something?
Yeah.
And like
You can't ask the question, how many
That's
licks
not
does it
it.
take to
That
get to
didn't
this,
give the
right?
center, I know that.
Yeah, a 3,000-pound lollipop. Like, I can't imagine the amount of sugar it took to make that.
Or who's the person who's like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make a 3,000-pound
Yeah.
lollipop. And
Yeah.
why 3,011? Like, how did they must have beaten the record? Must have been
Or
3,000.
maybe they count the stick.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
I don't know.
That was extra.
But, like, how do you... So we've had, what, 4 different things now?
Yep. We
that
have a
are,
couple
like,
more coming. So,
ginormous.
mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right next to Healthy Choice.
Exactly. And so the other healthy thing, now, I'm a lifelong non-smoker. I am allergic to cigarette smoke, have been my entire life. This is the beginning of very good things. Maryland, I didn't realize, was like one of the first.
Yeah.
They banned smoking in restaurants and bars as early as '94.
Yeah.
And I was just talking, I work with some younger teachers, and their life, they have not experienced going to a bar and coming home and smelling gross. So it's more is gonna happen with this in a few years here, but that was really significant.
It was a big, yeah. Because now you don't go in and say smoking or non-smoking
Right.
anymore. It's just all non-smoking, thank goodness. Because I'm right there with you. Never smoked, and it's nasty.
Oh,
Betty Crocker
PC.
gets her own website. For a fictional person, that's pretty good.
hey, yeah, it is.
Right?
I remember this. The tan M&Ms went away, and the blue. I think there was a vote. Like,
Yeah.
it was like blue, purple, pink, or something like
Yeah.
that. And then, so there's blue M&Ms.
Yep. Pizza Hut has stuffed pizza crusts.
Yes.
Yep.
And my frozen pizza of choice, DiGiorno, self-rising crust
Yep.
pizza.
And once again, the Supreme Court asserting food issues. I mean, this was not a bad one.
No.
Putting the alcohol content on beer labels, which why in 35?
I looked it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I looked that up. So the reason it was banned in the first place is that this is post-prohibition, 1935, right? I should know this. It was 33, right? Yeah, that the 21st Amendment. So they were the country, USDA, whatever it was back then, was concerned that brewers would compete to see who had the most potent beer. And that's why they banned it. They'd be like, mine's 7%, mine's 8%, mine's 9%. Macro brews these days are about 4.5%, 5%. Microbrew, it really depends. Craft brew beers will almost always tell you the alcohol by volume, but macros usually don't. But it is, if you want to list it, you can.
Right.
I don't know
Very
anybody
cool.
who's in the craft beer, and I don't know anybody who's like, I can't wait to get wasted on this 10% stout. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure people do, but nobody I know does.
Yeah.
So
Nope. Maybe I need to be over there. There we go.
Oh, look at this, a new smoking ban in New York.
Yep, they're starting. Not for very large. It's got to be for more than 35 seats. Oh, okay, it's a start.
It's a start.
This should never have started. Turkey bacon should never have been a thing. No.
But it goes with the health consciousness of the 90s, right? It's better for you.
It's bacon.
It's gross. I don't like it, but
it's bacon. Yeah.
I can say I never had any of the Bluebell stuff.
I have. I lived in Texas for a while, and they're pretty decent.
Okay, I've
Yeah.
never had one. So.
But it was the first line of mini ice cream cones, so you could eat 4 and not feel bad.
Exactly. Like, I only had.
Right. I only had 2. Yeah. And then Martha Stewart, absolutely everywhere.
Mhm.
You know why? Food Network.
Yep. And
Yep.
then her magazine and her good things.
All of
yes.
it. 96, Olestra.
Here it comes.
Yeah. And that was also fairly controversial at the time because there weren't any long-term studies on that as a product. And the fact that they just went ahead and approved it was like, well, wait a minute. But they did.
We're going to find out the effects in a couple slides.
Yep.
So now we're removing the voluntary ban of hard liquor ads on TV and radio. Have been in effect since 1936, an effective prohibition. I mean,
Right.
prohibition just did so much.
Yep.
So
Yep. And I love this.
I remember this.
I do.
you
I
remember
love
it?
this.
I remember this.
It was a national April Fool's joke, and Taco Bell said that they bought the Liberty Bell to pay down the national debt.
I remember that.
I do. I remember that well. It was pretty funny. They really didn't,
could
but
see
just
that.
to
Yeah.
make sure. Yeah.
Slap the label on there. Oh, yeah.
Talk about large. A 459-pound halibut.
That's
Like,
it. Yeah.
That's huge. I hope that fed several people.
I hope it fed lots of people.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yep.
Dolly the sheep. Remember Dolly the sheep?
I do.
Yep.
Do y'all remember what made Dolly special? The first cloned being,
Clone. Yep.
right? Yep.
She was born. Yes.
Yeah. And the World Food Summit. It happens fairly often. This year in '96, it was in Rome, and the delegates were like, "World hunger is a big issue. We need to tackle that."
And I think they thought they would end it, but unfortunately, no.
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 Hasn't
They
quite-
tried, though.
They
I
did.
mean,
They tried. They had some good ideas. Didn't work. The Bubba Gump Shrimp Company opened the very first, and it's a chain now. But
yes,
the
it
very
is.
first
I've never
one,
been to one, but I'm sure it's amazing. So
It's okay. I was at one in
It's okay.
in Maryland. So
Okay.
it was all right.
And EBT, I remember I worked at a grocery store summers from college up at Meyer, and I did not know what food stamps were. And I remember they were bright and colorful and very pretty. But then I remember other people in line would be like, "Oh, I'm paying for your." It was just so awful what people
It
would say
was.
to people using food stamps. So
Yep.
this was like little cards, and it's much less obvious. Unfortunately, it has to be that way because people can be garbage. So
Yeah. So it was the first time that the food stamp program went electronic, which, if you think about it, is a really big deal. I mean, the fact that people could have like a credit card and go in and do what they get their groceries and do what they needed to was a pretty big deal. And Maryland was the first state to have
Once
a fully
again,
functioning
leading the
system.
way, Maryland. What?
Yep.
97. Okay. So, once again, mad cow. I do not remember this. USDA
I
was
do.
saying you cannot use most slaughtered animal parts in feed for farm animals to protect our food supply
I do
from
remember
Great
that.
Britain. I don't
Yep.
remember that at all. I just remember mad cow being like, "Oh my god!" But
Yep, I remember that. It was because that's when the price of beef like skyrocketed.
oh yeah, that makes sense. Sure. Hmm.
Yep. Hooters agreed to pay $3.8 million
I remember
to
this.
settle a class action lawsuit. And again, I was talking with my girlfriend about this, and she was like, "But she worked there as a hostess for a while. She's like, she couldn't handle how like horrible the people were treated. The guys coming
Oh.
in treated her.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
yeah.
she quit. She was like, "Well, they still do." I'm like, "No. They changed it. Now they don't hire servers. They hire models, and your job description is a
Oh.
model.
Wow.
So that's how they can dictate your body size.
Okay.
Is because they're not hiring you to serve food. They're hiring you as a model.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good trivia question.
Yep.
Wow, cool. Go-gurt.
I
I'm
didn't-
not a yogurt
Yeah,
fan.
I mean,
so.
it's okay in a pinch, but what was really cool was my stepdaughter, like, they were you could keep them in the freezer, and then by the time lunch rolled around, it was still cold for her to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was pretty
I think
good.
That'd be good.
Yep.
I do remember V8 Splash. I'm not a fan of V8, but I would drink those because they had like pineapple often, and it kind of like
Yep.
muted the taste of the
Oh, I
tang
love
of
V8.
the
I love
the
V8.
tomato.
Drink it all the time. Wonder Balls. Now,
Remember those? They
yeah,
were not there. They were there for like a minute.
a hot minute because it was a hollow ball with candy inside.
What could go wrong? Little pieces of candy that children are going to be like,
Yeah.
what could
Yeah.
possibly go wrong? Oh my
Yep.
God. Yeah, they didn't last.
And it only took 6 years, which isn't very long if you think about it, for the internet to become commercially available, for there to be the first food blog.
Chowhound.
Yep.
Sure, I
That's
was
what
on it. but I don't
Chowhound was,
remember
the
it.
first food blog.
It's not bad.
Yep, not bad. So again, food safety is becoming a global issue. The world's largest recall, the U.S. Largest recall in history is Hudson Foods in Nebraska, 25 million pounds of ground beef. And I clearly remember that.
And then bird flu, that was like another thing that was going to kill us all. There was the mad cow, there was the bird flu. I remember that specifically. And I did not remember it was over 1 million birds that were killed in Hong Kong, but I do remember tons of birds being killed.
Yep,
So
it was a lot. So the
this is
UN,
so sad.
Sudan, starvation. The World Food Summit obviously didn't have too many long-lasting effects because the UN declared it an official famine.
And there was a locust plague in Ethiopia.
4,000 acres.
That's mind-blowing. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
That's a lot. How many acres are in Michigan?
I know. So I was just trying to think. I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm not good with that.
California also starts to ban smoking in restaurants. So now we've got 3 states kind of. So there's a trend coming along, which is for health, which is good. Like that. And then HACCP. So food safety becoming a much more prominent thing. I am very familiar with HACCP plans. Our line of dessert sauces required me to be HACCP certified.
Oh, okay.
And its intended consequences are, to keep the food supply safe. In implementing HACCP, which is hazard analysis and critical control points, you have to look. A food manufacturer has to look at every step the food takes from the second it walks in the door to the second it leaves the door. Any step along the way that could be a potential contaminant or issue that could degrade the product, whether it's physical, biological, or chemical. And I was like, what the heck?
Wow. Okay.
So physical would mean like a nail, some foreign object in it. Chemical is if it's like bleach. You've got your cleaning supplies and some bleach splashes in
God.
it. And then biological would be E. coli,
Oh.
botulism, salmonella, all those things. So in how you control that. It is a very in-depth process. And for the gourmet sauces that we make at the bakery, I have to have a plan for each one of those, and each plan is 75 pages.
Wow. That's wild.
And extremely expensive to do.
Okay. I hadn't thought of that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So on kind of happier news, I remember these frozen skillets. I had forgotten them until we were researching this, and I do remember them. I don't know if they're still around, but it
They
was
are.
like you would add like
Yeah.
I think chicken, and it would be like a one pan.
Yeah.
So a food of convenience. Also, foods of convenience are snack foods like potato chips. In this case, fat-free Pringles and Frito-Lay Wow potato chips.
With Olean, right? I love the warning sign, right? May cause abdominal cramping and loose stools. Olestra inhibits the absorption of some vitamins and other nutrients. Vitamins A, D, E, and K have been added.
And then there was the ones that caused like the leakage.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Like I ate the Doritos once, and it was there was something weird, and I didn't want to have loose
Yeah.
stools, so I only ate like a few. So
Yeah, but that was the
yeah,
thing.
that didn't last very long.
Nope. Not very long at all.
Oh, Pillsbury, I remember this. So again, convenience, one-step brownie. Yes.
Take it out of the package,
Right?
put
Yep.
it in the oven.
Exactly.
Done.
It was right there. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yep.
Right there.
The U.S. Department of Commerce listed
Year of the
99 as the year of the restaurant.
Now we're getting in the 2000s. We'll see like the slow food and the organic. So we're
Yep.
getting there in 1999,
Yep.
the year of the restaurant. My God, that's it, isn't it? I mean, that's it. That's the cake.
6,000-pound strawberry shortcake.
It's like 20 people lining that thing. My God.
I
that's
like
amazing.
again. Why? I just don't understand why. I just don't get it.
I know.
Like how
So
many
much
people could have
food.
fed those? I mean, they're
Right,
strawberries,
right.
but I don't know.
Strawberries
It
are
just
delicious,
that just
but yeah,
bothers me.
yeah. So,
Yep, totally bothers me. I do remember these. Who remembers Uncrustables? Right? Yeah. Patent number 6,004,596 was issued for Uncrustables.
I remember the Goober grape that had the grape jellies from the 80s that had the peanut butter and the
60s.
jelly. No kidding, really?
60s.
Wow, that's wild.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Cosmic brownies. I had those. Fan of the Little Debbie.
They are
so,
pretty good. Yep,
mhm.
yep. And Restaurant Nora, and that is its actual name, Restaurant Nora, the first certified organic restaurant in the U.S.
Leading us into the 2000s with
Yep.
all the awesome organic.
Yep. All right, the iconic
yes.
foods, cupcakes. Cupcakes were everywhere. There were 3 cupcake shops here in Ann Arbor.
There's still a couple, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Yeah, the Cupcake
Yeah.
Station,
Yeah.
and I don't remember the other 2. But cupcakes were everywhere. And it was a pastry chef out of New York, and I can't remember the name of her bakery, but she made cupcakes a thing for, and it still is. Like, cupcakes are just the thing. On this side of it over here is a lettuce wrap. That was P.F. Chang's.
I remember the
Yep.
Yep.
P.F.
yep.
Chang's. P.F. Chang's restaurant itself was pretty cool, but they made the lettuce wrap the thing to have
Yep.
everywhere.
Jimmy John still has that option. Like, I don't get it because I like bread, but like it's still
Yeah.
an option.
Yeah.
Like, so
And then of course avocado toast.
avocado, yum.
I like it.
I like
get
it too. It's
Yep.
delicious.
Some avocado on our multigrain bread from the bakery. Oh yeah, yeah. Or our multigrain sourdough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
Very good.
And that's why we have cupcakes, is because it was the iconic dessert of the 90s.
Of the 90s.
So
like at weddings, you'd have like
Oh, yeah.
cupcakes instead of
Yep.
the cake. Sure. Which is kind of cool, I guess.
all right,
Oh,
grocery
yeah.
stores. No, grocery stores were invented in what, 1932?
Yes, it was in the Dirty 30s.
Yep.
Yes.
Self-checkout. First time that you see that was in the 90s. And there's a trend now for grocery stores to take them out. People are getting frustrated with it. People are getting fed up with it. So there's several grocery stores that are starting to remove them.
They can be frustrating.
They
so,
can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
An average of 7,000 items per grocery store.
And the first grocery stores literally had like the stuff stacked and like
Yeah.
the person would get it for you. Not anymore. No, 7,000 items. So
Yeah.
400 billion. Wild. Yep.
Yeah. Peak sales in 93 was 76.3% of the market shares where you got your food. So 73% of Americans went to a grocery store instead of a smaller mom and pop shop or a green grocer or something else. But
Or farmer's market or
yeah,
whatever.
farmers market. Yep. Average size 35,000 square feet.
It's, yeah. Well, Meyer is huge.
Like they're huge. Even Meyer now has their small city shops. That's not the name of it. It's but they've got like it's downtown Detroit, downtown Lansing, downtown Grand Rapids, where it's a much smaller footprint.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and they've gone to just the core items. So instead of having all 7,000, they'd have like 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's a
interesting.
relatively
Okay.
new, the last couple of years.
Yeah. All
but
right.
Meyer just unveiled those. I want to say last year.
Okay.
Yeah, relatively new. Yep.
They know what they're doing.
Yep.
So
All right.
here
so
we go.
I'm going to show, this is the raw data of all the stuff that we've kind of talked about between all of the decades. And that's a lot of information. So I broke it down for you. So we're going to go step by step.
8 decades. Wow.
If I can get this thing to click.
There we
we
go.
All right.
Oh, look at us.
Population, nice steady increase.
1920.
Yep.
More than doubled.
Not too bad, though. You know, figure
Yeah.
80 years. That's
Yeah, okay,
a
fair.
lifetime,
Yep,
right?
fair.
Not bad. Income. There's some discrepancies here. There's a pretty big jump between the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s,
50s.
and 70s.
Yeah.
And then from the 70s to the 90s even.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
Almost
a pretty
doubled, yeah.
significant jump.
Mm-hmm.
Housing, that's a very significant jump.
Oh yeah, from what the 70s, 80s, 90s, from the 70s to the 90s. Yep, absolutely.
And if you think about it, this one that comes next makes sense. So your car. So this is where your house got expensive. This is where your car gets expensive.
Yeah, the 80s, because they were selling all the luxury cars, all the all
the cars
yuppies.
got way bigger.
Yeah, that's right. They did.
Yep, remember that? Yep. And not too much between the 80s and 90s. And those are averages, of course. Gas,
I remember.
pretty significant jump.
I remember when it went to over $2.
Oh, I do too. Yep. Farms. That's not a trend you really want to see, is it? So this is the number of farms. So we went from just about 4 million in the 20s to just over 6 million in the 30s, and then a very steady decline into the just over 2 million in the 90s.
Oh yeah,
that's
the
pretty
acreage.
significant.
Yep.
$33
In the Great
an acre.
Depression, yeah.
Right.
It's wild. Go
Yeah,
back in time.
yeah.
and-
So, and double, triple almost.
Yep.
Again, double almost. Yeah. There we go.
There
and
it is.
percent of the workforce.
Yep.
In the program I used rounded because it was what, 1.8%?
Yes.
So
yeah,
it rounded
1.8
up
in
to
the
2.
90s. Mhm.
Yeah. And if you think about like 27% of the workforce in the 20s, that's a lot of people.
Mhm. And
And this is why this number makes sense. Because if 2% of the workforce is working on farms and the average acreage goes up, it's tractors,
right, exactly.
technology.
And the giant factory farms.
Yep. Yep. And I believe that's what we've got for you tonight. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Grab a cupcake.
Grab
or
several
2
cupcakes.
or 3. And we'll have to see when we're going to redo this
Yes,
and start over.
absolutely, yes.
would
Or
be
do
so
like a weird one-off, like the Civil War food or something.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, we'll have to see what we can do about that. Thanks for coming,
Thank you
everyone.
so much for coming out. Thank
Have
you.
a great evening.
Thank you, AADL, for letting us do
Yes.
this. We love you. Thank
Yes,
you.
We totally do. Thank you so much.